Hi everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of the June Kimberbell Mini Quilt. And so this is going to be the third and the fourth block. So we're going to do the strawberries block. That's this one here. We're going to do this one first, and then we're going to do the lemonade block. And that's the long skinny one that's on the left-hand side of the quilt. So that'll be really fun. So for the strawberries block, it's the same size as the other two that we did in video 1. So it's going to turn out 4 by 6. And so, but we did need a couple of little things to do before we get started. So one of the things, we're going to put a little ruffle on the jar here. And they have you take the 1" by 3.5" piece that was in the little stripe and just gather it along the top at about 1/4 inch and make it about 2 inches. So you just want to pull it out and measure till it's about 2 inches. So you don't have to gather it a ton. And then it said to apply fray preventative stuff. So I actually just took as you can see, I just took my pinking shears and I just pinked it along the edges. This part here is going to be up underneath some applique, so you won't see it, but the rest of it, I just pinked it. I thought that looked really cute. So I just used pinking shears on mine. I just have, a basic set of pinking shears. That's what I used on mine. I actually had to replace my pinking shears. I had the same old ones for like, since I was a really young person. I mean, probably 40 years, I bet you. And so I got some new pinking shears about a year ago. So that was exciting to get new pinking shears. So I went ahead and did that, and I just took, just a hand needle and just went across there. So that'll be the little ruffle for the jar. And we're also going to need some vinyl, the clear vinyl that's in the little embellishment kit. So I've got that ready. And then also the red and white twine. So I've got my twine here too. And we're going to put that, I think it goes around the middle of the jar, and then we'll tie it in a bow. Okay, so I've got my pieces here. I've got my background with the green plaid, and I've got my pinks and my red fabrics, and then my little striped fabric, and then I've also got a little piece of white for the jar label. Okay, so we got all of our fabrics here and our vinyl. Second, I'm going to try to find a place to put this. The cat decided to join me here today, so I gave her little, she gets so upset if I don't let her have I have a wool pressing mat, and I always have that cutting mat on top of it when I'm doing videos like this, and she just hates it because then she can't sit on her mat. So now she's all calmed down. So anyway, okay, and so we're going to do the quilting first, of course, and this one is going to be, let's see here. This one is going to be Fruit 6. All right, so let's see if we can find that one. So we're going to look for Fruit 6. Quilting Fruit 6, there it is. And then this one's going to be the 4 by 6 design. And this is 4 by 6 right here. Okay, oh, that one's interesting. See, it's got peaches and it's got some leaves on it. That was kind of neat. All right, so we're going to hit set on that one. And we're going to hit add now. Probably couldn't see me. It was right down here in this corner. And then we're going to go get the strawberries block. So we'll get the strawberries block. Let's see. Mini quilts. June. There we go. And then this is going to be the strawberries. So here's the strawberries. And set. All right, so these say to come in centered, which they do automatically, so everything's centered for us. We're going to hit embroidery. Okay, so we're ready to do the embroidery. Now this one, it did say to actually quilt it with the lighter green, but I don't know if I'm going to like that because my green doesn't match that plaid too well. So maybe I will, let me look at it here. I was planning to do it in white. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to like that green. I think I'm going to stick with the white on mine because it's so white on the back. I like my quilting, and if you don't like yours, if you want it to show more, I kind of like my quilting to be in the background and have the applique be the feature. So if I put that light green on there, I think it's going to show a lot. So I think I'm going to stick with the white for my quilting. So I've got white thread in my machine. Just trying to get all these little pieces off here. I can get to my background piece. Now the background piece does have a piece of shape flex on it, and I think that was the only one on this one that they suggested putting the shape flex on. So yes, it was just the background piece. So I am going to do my quilting in white though. So we're going to go ahead. Step number 1 of the quilting is always going to be the placement line for the batting, and I got to go get my batting. It's behind me here. Got to get my chunk of batting. Looks like I got a great big cat hair in the middle of my stabilizer there. All right. At one time I had 4 cats, and they were all different colors. So I had every cat hair color known to man, I think. And this actually looks like a cat hair. This looks like one of my older cats that's gone. I bet I had it on this batting because she had, it looked like a brown tiger stripe kitty hair, and that would have been Mitzi. All right, so we're going to lay our batting over the placement line, and then we're going to stitch this down because my hairs are not that long. I have brown hair too, but my hair is not that long. All right, so it's going to go around it twice. This is going to be really cute. I haven't done one of these that we put the little ruffle on something for a while. It seems like we did that on a towel for an event. It was so cute to put the little ruffle on the jar. So that'll be really, really fun to do. So we're going to trim our batting then. Let's get our batting trimmed here. And then we'll do the placement line for the fabric, the background fabric. I'm really looking forward to the lemonade block. I thought that one looked like it was going to be really cute. It's kind of big though. I think it's going to have to go in a 9.5 by 14 hoop, I believe, because it looks like I think it's 14 inches long almost, because it's going to be 12 inches long, so I bet it has to be a 9.5 by 14 because it goes over the whole end of the block. Okay, so we're going to do our tack down line, or I'm sorry, our placement line for our fabric in the quilting. So yeah, so my helper's happy now because she has her mat to sit on. She just hates that round thing because she steps on it and then it turns. So she was having a hard time getting over here. It's sort of like a little kitty cat merry-go-round. Okay, so then we're going to lay our fabric down over the batting, and then this is kind of directional, so try to get it as straight as possible. Otherwise it might look a little strange, and then we're going to tack it down. All right. Yeah, I just don't think I'd like the green. I think it would show an awful lot. So I'm going to do mine in white. So it's going to tack it down, and then step number 5 in the quilting process is always the quilting. So we're going to get the quilting going. Looks like this one might take a little bit because it's got quite a bit going on there. So I'll go ahead and get it started here, and I'll come back when it's done so we can start the actual block. And we're going to start, looks like we're going to start with doing the jar. Okay, so we got the quilting in there, and I'm definitely glad I didn't go with the green because you can see there's a lot going on in that quilting. Can you see the whole, you can actually see the pattern really well even in the white. So there's a peach over here, and there's leaves, lemons. I think definitely we needed to have the white because it would have been a little bit too much green for me, I think. So, all right, so we got our quilting in there. So the next step is going to be the placement line for the jar. I got to check to make sure that I've got my jar piece of fabric correct. And that's going to be this kind of rose color. It's called Cherub Rose, so I'm going to use that color for my placement line too, and my tack down line. So we'll get that up in the machine. So we're going to start with the jar. And then I think we have to put the vinyl on next. All right, so let's get our placement line on here for our fabric, and then we'll use the, put my fabrics over here, then we'll use the vinyl. Do this first. So there's our placement line. And this is on page 11 of the instructions, and I'm on steps 3 and 4. So then I'm going to lay this over, and we're going to tack this down, and then we're going to trim the fabric. I'm sorry, this is steps 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 are going to be the vinyl. So then we're going to trim the fabric close to the stitches. Probably should have had a little shape flex on the back of that fabric too, but I think it'll be all right. You can see the background through it a little bit. Sometimes I put it on just for that, but it didn't say to, so sometimes it's fine. But all right, so we're going to do the trimming here. Okay. So there's our jar. And then it says, oh, to do the satin outline. So it's going to do the satin outline on our jar. And then we'll do the vinyl. Yep, so then we do the satin stitches first, and then we'll do our vinyl. So let me get this started here. And I'm going to leave that same color in to do the satin stitching. And then we'll come back and we'll put our vinyl on to do the next step. Okay, so we got our satin stitches around the jar here, and then it says to place the jar outside vinyl over the jar satin outline. So we're going to put this down here, make sure there's nothing in there. All right, you always want to make sure there's nothing inside, you know, so that it gets trapped in there. I'm going to make sure that I don't have any threads sticking out or anything here. Nothing's on my vinyl. And then I'm going to lay this over that, and then we're going to stitch I'm going to leave the same color in a thread, and then it's going to stitch around, and we're going to trim the vinyl off then. So it's just going to do like a little triple stitch around for the vinyl. And then we'll trim close to the stitches. It's good. Just trim the vinyl as desired. So I usually trim about 1/8 of an inch or so from the edge. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay. And when you're trimming the vinyl, what I like to do is I like to kind of turn my scissors upward so that I can kind of go along the edge of my satin stitch here to kind of help me stay even. Okay, so put that rest of that vinyl over there. And again, this is going to be like raw edge, so you want to make sure that it looks pretty neat along the edge. The top part of it the top part up here will be covered though, so you don't have to worry so much about this, but the edges will be seen. So I kind of use my satin stitch to help me come down along the edge and keep it nice and even. Like that. We got a little piece down here to get. And I'm kind of tipping my scissors so that they're straight up and down so that it makes a nice even edge. There we go. Okay. That looks pretty good. Rid of those little pieces. And then what is it? Oh, I got to turn my page. That was on page 11 of the instructions, and page 12 says stitch the label placement line. So I'm going to use white for that, for the label. So we're going to put this back in here. And just so you know, this is the top of the jar up here because it's kind of sideways. So we're going to go ahead and put the white thread in to do our label. And this will be the placement line for that. Yeah, so this is the placement line for the label. And then we're going to get our white here, label white. Make sure I get it right side up. And then we're going to place the label right side up, and then we're going to tack it down. Oops, looks like I got a little thread in there though. Let me get rid of that. Get that stitched in under there. Okay, so we'll put this on the top. Make sure I get it right side up though. Yep, like that. And we're going to tack that down. And I am going to hold that a little bit because it's kind of slippery. You could tape it down if you'd like, because you know that vinyl's a little slippery. And then we're going to trim the fabric close to the stitches. Okay. Now just be careful. There is vinyl under there, so you don't want to like scratch your vinyl up. So just be careful of your scissors when you're trimming this. Go around the edge. I think there's a little decorative stitch or something around the edge of this next. Looks like maybe a decorative stitch. Oops. Didn't get very close there. Nope. Now I'm going to have my fabric all on the floor too. I have a hard time when I go to trimming the hoop like this so you can see, because then I get stuff laid all over. All right. There we go. All right, so then it's going to do the decorative stitch. So that's step number 7. Put this back in here and let it do the decorative stitch. Okay. So this is going to do the decorative stitch, and then I think we're going to move on and do something with the twine next. Okay, so we got our little decorative stitches around our label, and now it says to stitch the twine placement line. So I did go ahead and put my kind of peachy color back in again, because we're working around that area and I didn't want anything to show. It's just going to give me some little placement lines so I know where to put this. So there's a little placement line there. And there. So it's going to be just kind of like right above the vinyl there. And I got my tape ready. So let's, a second here, let me put these up here so that they won't get in the way. I'm going to flip this over so we can see what we're doing here. Okay. So we're going to put the twine, kind of center. We're going to center it. So I'm going to kind of fold it in half so I know where the center is. And then we're going to lay it over this. So it just shows a picture of us laying it kind of right over the top of the, jar here. So we'll just lay it over here like this, kind of get it centered. And then we're going to tape it down with some Kimberbell tape. And they said to put some tape. I'm going to put some tape like over this, and just carefully over the edge of that, because I don't want it to catch on the edge, and then I'll pull that off. And I'm going to put some tape out here to hold this out of our way so they won't flop into our design here. So we'll just put these out here like that. Okay. And then it's going to do the little tack down lines over here again for the little tie there. So let's go do that. That's step number, let's see, this is step number 9. And it says to leave the tape over here just to hold everything out of the way. Okay, so hopefully this will work okay. And then we're going to work with the ruffle. I think the ruffle's the next part. It's going to go back over here and do this part, and then we'll pull this little piece of tape out. And then we'll work with the ruffle. I wonder where my ruffle went. Hopefully it's still here somewhere. There it is. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this tape out of here. So that's holding that little string down. If I can get the tape out of there. Well, this is the Kimberbell paper tape, and it rips pretty easily, so it comes out easy. Just a little piece right there. Okay, there we go. But I'm going to leave these here so that they don't flip into my design. I'm going to actually tuck this little tail in too, so it doesn't flip into my design. Okay. All right, so now we got that. And then we're going to work on the ruffles. So then the next step is going to be step number 10, and we're going to have that peachy color fabric in, or thread in. Stitch the ruffle placement line. So this is going to be the line where the ruffle's going to go. And then we're going to place the prepared jar topper ruffle fabric right side up with the gathered edge centered along the placement line. The gathered fabric should not extend past the line. Tape in place. So we're going to tape that in place. So that line is where our stitching line is going to be. So this line right here, you can kind of see this little pink line. Give me just a second. I got to find my ruffle. Here it is. So we're going to take that little ruffle and we're going to tape it down, and we want to put like the stitching line on that line like that. So it's going to be like that, and so the stitching line is going to be on that placement line. And then we need some more tape. Where did I put my tape? Oh, here it is. All right. So we're just going to get this organized here. Sometimes what helps me, I'm going to grab one. Sometimes it just helps me to take a little pin and put a pin on the end where that line is, and then this one, you can just kind of stick it into the batting, and then this end, and I'm putting the stitching line that I stitched on that line like that. There we go, because then I can kind of see where it's supposed to be, and it stretches it just a little bit. So let me get it stuck in there. There we go, like that. And then we can get it all straight, and then we're going to tape it across the top. It says, yeah, so the gathered fabric should not extend past the lines. Tape in place as shown. So we're just going to tape in place, and it's actually showing you taping it down below, and then there's going to be a tack down line that's going to go over it. So they're having you tape it down here. I think it might be easier to tape up here, and I'll just pull the tape off. I'm just going to tape it right there. And we'll just pull the tape out. Okay, got that one. Got this one. Because I think this is how I did the other one that we did. We did this in a class a while ago. Okay. Let me get this pin out of here so we won't hit it. All right, so then we're going to do a tack down line. So this is step number 11. So I'm trying to be careful to oops, didn't get my little flipper down. And I might need some more tape. I think I'm going to need another piece of tape. We are going to have to tape it down. I don't like to tape on the vinyl too well because it leaves a mark sometimes. So I'm just going to tape this down just to hold it down. There we go. Okay. So let's see if we can get this on here. So it's kind of stitching along the bottom there. Okay, and then it says stitch the jar topper placement line. So then we're going to, and it doesn't say to trim up here, but it seems like we should trim, but we may do that before we do the, I'm going to leave that tape on there. I'm going to take this tape off so that it doesn't leave a mark on my vinyl there. Okay. And then we'll just leave this tape on. Doesn't say to take the tape in place as shown and stitch the jar topper placement line. Place the jar topper fabric right side down with one long edge centered along the placement line, tape in place. Okay, so we're going to do the little placement line here. And we'll just pull the tape off, so don't worry about the tape. Oh, I see what they're going to do. They're going to have you do a flip and fold. Okay, I see. I understand now. Okay, so it says stitch the jar placement line, which you did. Place the jar topper fabric right side down with one long edge centered along the placement line. Tape in place. Okay, so then we're going to, we need to get some of this tape off though. So we're not going to get this tape stuck in our seam. So we can take this off. They're going to do a flip and fold. They're just going to fold this over. That'll be cool. Okay. So then we're going to take this piece and we're going to lay it along that placement line, which is right here, like that, and kind of center it. And then they want you to tape that one down. And this one, they're having you tape it on the ends. So we'll just tape a little bit on the end then. Just because of the ruffle in there, it's a little bit bulky. So we'll do this. And, oops, get it lined up there. And that. This is done differently than the way we did it before. Okay. And then it says stitch the jar top seam allowance. So we're going to do the seam then. Okay, I still got my pink thread in there, so it's just going to stitch that shut. Okay. This is a little different. Okay. Remove the tape, flip the fabric right side up, press well along the seam. Note, use a mini iron. You can use a mini iron. I usually just use my fingernail. Right side up, and then we're going to do a tack down. Okay. So it just did a flip and fold. Isn't that cool? Over the little jar things. In a second here, we'll untape this. And then we'll flip this right side up. Look at there. That's really cool. And there's my little ruffle. I like that. Okay, so we'll flip this and do a nice press on it with my fingernail. Probably didn't get the stripes very lined up, but you know, we'll be fine. Okay, and then we're going to do the tack down, which is number 14. Like that. Let's put a little piece of tape up here. See, I'm not sure that we'll need one though. Did it say to tape? I don't think it did. I think it'll be okay. All right, I think we'll be fine. That's cute. I like it when I get to do something new. There we go. Okay, so then we're going to do the tack down line. It's going to kind of go up this way. And do the top of the jar. Look at there. Trim the fabric only along the line shown in red, so it's going to be just the top. We're just going to trim up there. Let's see. Trim the fabric only along the line shown in red. Do not trim the folded edge. Be careful not to clip the ruffled fabric. Okay. So now we're going to just trim along where it stitched up there to make the top of the jar. And don't cut through your little string either. Go along here. Careful of the string. I'm getting close to it, so I want to make sure I don't get that. With my luck, I would cut through that as well. All right. Okay, I think we made it. Might need to be a little closer right here, but I think we're okay. There we go. So there we trimmed. Got a little hair sticking out here, so there we go. All right. So there's the top of our jar. So now what does it say to do? We did that. Stitch the jar top decorative outline, remove the tape from the twine ends, tie the twine into a bow as desired. All right. So then we're going to do this part. I'm not quite close enough in that one spot. Of course, I dropped my scissors on the floor. And I think I need to get a little closer right here. Just a little closer right here. There. Okay. There we go. So now we're going to do the decorative outline. I'm going to go across the top here. All right. So I think we're doing okay here. This is something different. I haven't never done it this way, because the last time I know that we did like some satin stitches over it. It was different the way it was done. So this worked really slick to do the little flip and fold over the top. Okay. Very cute. I like that. Okay. My ruffle kind of slipped up a little bit, but I think I can trim it a little bit. All right. So see my little ruffle kind of slipped up here a little bit, but you know what? I think we can fix that. I'll wait until I get it off the frame here, because it might actually be okay. But this little spot flipped up a little bit, so I might be able to take my pinking shears and just go whoosh, right down the edge there to fix that. But we'll do that in a little bit. So then it said to tie the bow. I suppose just to get these out of the way so we won't sew on them, because we're going to be sewing over on the other side now. So let's just do this. And we'll tie this up this way. And I'll fix my little boo-boo there on the corner in a little bit. There. So I'm just going to kind of tie it, and then we'll just kind of tape it down right here so that it's not in the way. What else did it say? Tie the twine into a bow, and then we're going to do berry fresh. Well, I don't want any of this to get stuck, so I don't think there's anything above the jar. So I'm just going to put a little piece of tape over the top of this just so that it won't get in the way. So we'll just tape this down up here. Okay. All right, so now we're going to do the lettering on the label, and that is going to be done in red. Give me a second here to switch to my red. It's about time for supper, so now she thinks she needs to be fed. All right. All right, so then we're going to do stitch berry fresh. So I'll do that, and I'll be right back, and we'll be starting on the strawberries. Okay, so I went ahead and started the placement line for my strawberries here. So this is the first set of strawberries on the right hand side, and these were done in red. So this is the 3x3 red piece. So I'm going to cover this placement line with my 3x3 piece of red. And then that was 17, and then step number 18 is going to be the tack down line for that. And then we will trim the strawberries. So part of the strawberries are kind of this red color, and part of them are kind of this kind of more corally red color. So these are the tack down lines. Okay, so I'm going to trim around my strawberries here. And then it's going to do some decorative lines. And then I think it's going to stop and do some leaves and then go back and do some more decorative lines. So we're going to get these trimmed here. These are way easier to trim than the little blueberries were. The blueberries were very small. These are way easier. I don't know that those would have even cut out well with the scanning cut. I'm not sure. I've never really cut anything that small because I have a little trouble. It pulls up from the mat sometimes. So when they're that little. Okay, so then it's going to do some decorative outlines, and these decorative outlines are motif stitches as well. So we'll get those going, and then we're going to go do some leaves next. Okay, so I've got my decorative stitches around part of my strawberries, and now I'm going to put the moss green in, and we're going to do some of the tops, and then we'll go back to more decorative stitches, it looks like. Yep. So we'll do the tops of our some of the strawberries, and then we'll go back to the red for the decorative stitches. Okay, so I went ahead and put the red back in, and it's going to do a little bit more of the decorative outline on the strawberry here. And then we're going to move on to the lighter colored strawberries down along the bottom. So it's doing that part, and then it's going to go back, and now we're going to do some more applique and put the lighter colors on. So I'm doing step number 22 on page 13, and this is the placement lines for the lighter colored strawberries. So there's going to be one over here, and then it's going to shoot over to the other side, and we're going to be putting down this long piece of the kind of corally red for this part of the strawberries. And then it's going to go, so then these are all going to go, this is going to go along the whole bottom here. Okay, so I'm going to lay this in. Make sure you get it all covered. And then we're going to do step number 23, which is the tack down line. I'm doing this with the lighter color of pink that matches this fabric. And then it looks like we're going to trim. So then I'll trim the fabric before we go on to the next step. Okay, so I trimmed the strawberries. So here's the three lighter colored strawberries. And then the next step, which is going to be step number 24, is the decorative outlines. And then there's also going to be some chevrons in step number 25. So I'm going to go ahead and do those two steps and then come back on, and then we'll get ready to go on to some red strawberries. So get the decorative stitches going here. And then we'll be ready to come back to work on some of the red ones. Okay, so I'm ready for step number 26. I've put my red thread back in, maybe. Oh, I think it unthreaded. Just a second. Let's rethread that. And this is the placement lines for the last two red strawberries. And then I'm going to do the tack down line. And then I'm going to trim these. So that'll be the next steps for 26 and 27. And that is on page 13 of the instructions. Okay, so I did the tack down line, the placement line, the tack down line for these two strawberries. Then I trimmed them close to the stitches. That was steps 26 and 27. And then steps 28 and 29 are still going to be in red, and we're going to do the decorative outlines on here. And then some more chevrons. So I'm going to go ahead and do those two steps, and I'll be back then to finish working on the leaves. Okay, so step number 30 is going to be the rest of the tops of the strawberries, and those are in my moss green. And step number 31 is going to be the seeds. So I'll do those two steps, and then I'll come back to do the little placement lines again. There's a couple little placement lines on the sides like there was before. So this is going to be the step number 30 and 31 on the top of page 13, and this is the leaves and the seeds. The seeds are going to be in white. Okay, so we're to the last step, which is going to be those little placement guides. I did put my pink thread back in just so I could see it a little bit better. Boy, there's going to be a lot of little jump clips in those seeds, so I'll have to sit here and clip my jump clips. And we're just going to do our little placement lines here at the end. This is step number 31, or 32, sorry. The seeds were 31. 32 is the little, whoops, second here, I got to move my tape here so it won't catch. There we go. Had my bow kind of tied down so it wouldn't get caught in anything. All right, so there's our little placement lines. And we're done with the strawberries. So I have to do all my little jump clips. There's a bunch of them. So here's the little strawberry block. It's so cute. There it is. So look at all the little jump clips. So I'll have to sit there and clip my little jump clips. But isn't that adorable? Very fresh. All right, so there is the third block of the June mini quilt. And the next one is going to be the lemonade. So let me get set up for that and we'll come back and do the lemonade. Okay, so we're ready for the lemonade block, and I didn't realize that this one's actually in two hoopings. So I thought what I'd do is, well, let's just go ahead and do the first hooping of the lemonade block before we trim our little strawberries block. And then I'll just do a third video and just do the lemonade block by itself, because as I got to looking at it, there's actually quite a lot going on in it. So let's go ahead and do this first little hooping, and it's just a little tag that's going to be done to put on the top of the lemonade block. So we're going to make that first, and then we'll do, I'll switch the camera over and we'll do the trimming on our little strawberry block. Break these videos up just a little bit. So they'll actually be 4 videos on this for this series, including the assembly video, just to make them a little shorter and break them up a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. So we're going to need a 4x4 frame, and we need water-soluble stabilizer. So I actually have 2 pieces on here. You could do one, but they kind of pull a little bit with one, so I usually put 2 layers in. And then we're just going to need that embroidery leather. I think it's the white leather for the little sign. It should say here somewhere. Yeah, white embroidery leather for the little the banner. And we're going to make the letters in pink, and we're going to do the placement lines and the tack down line and stuff in the white. So if it give me just a second to get my leather out of my little packet here. And then we'll just do the little banner and then we'll do the trimming, and then we'll have a third video for just the lemonade block, because as I got to looking at it, it's got a lot going on with it. Okay, so let's put this in here. Just going to leave my white bobbin thread in the bobbin, and I think we're going to start out with white thread, but let's go get our design here. I didn't notice that it was in 2 pieces until I turned the page. I'm like, oh, I guess that we could do this. We could split these up a little bit. So, all right, so let's go into embroidery files, June, and then here's the little lemonade banner. So we're going to get that, click set, and then embroidery. So we don't have to do any quilting on this one because it's just going to be a little banner. You get my white thread. We're going to use that to start with. Because this needs to dry a little bit before, I think if you actually put it on, it might put it on during the embroidery, so I wanted this to dry a little bit, so that's why I decided to do it this way. Okay, so the first step it says to do is load the embroidery file. I got my white thread in, stitch the banner placement line. I've got my water soluble, my sew and wash, or my water soluble 2 layers in my hoop here, and I'm going to do my placement line. And then we're going to put the leather in right side up. And then we're going to stitch the trimming line. And it does says not to trim it at this time. So we're just going to put it in. And then it says just tape it down, but I'm just going to hold it. And then we're going to do the placement line. I'm just going to leave the white in for that. Or the tack down line, I should say. They call it the trimming line, so I think that you're actually going to trim along that line. And it says, do not trim the leather at this time, remove the tape. And then it just says to stitch squeeze the day. So I'm going to do that in one of my pinks. This is kind of a peachy pink, so I thought I'd do it in this pastel salmon, 0009. It's kind of a pretty pink. Do that. Get that started, and it just says squeeze the day. So that'll be really cute. And then it says to remove it from the hoop, and then you're going to trim the leather along the inside edge of the trimming line. So that line that we put in here, we're going to trim it in there, And then we're going to dissolve the water soluble away from it. So, so what we'll do is we'll do the lettering. I'll come back in just a second when the lettering is done, and then I will take it out, we'll trim it, and then I will do my, I'll take it to my sink in some warm water and dissolve the water soluble and let it dry, because then we'll need it later for finishing our lemonade block. So I'll be back when this is done stitching and do the trimming, and then we'll be ready to do the trimming on our strawberry block to end this video number 2, part 2, and then we'll go on to part 3 and make the lemonade block. Okay, so there's my little squeeze the day, and I gotta, oh, here's my scissors here. So we're going to take this out, and then we're going to trim along the inside edge of that little line there that shows the little tag. Whoops. So it says to trim on the inside edge of that. So we're just going to trim along the inside edge of that line. I'm just trimming through all the layers. Okay. And then we'll go to this side. Do our little flag. That's really cute. I don't know if I didn't look far enough ahead to see if it's actually sewn on or if it's glued on later, but I'll look at the instructions a little bit more fully. All right, and then we're gonna go up this side. And this side. So then you're going to dip this in, and they always say cool water, but this water soluble works way better in just like nice warm water, not hot, but warm, because it comes so much faster. It comes off so much faster, and then this will take the rest of this off, and then it'll also give it just a little bit of it'll be just a little bit stiffer to make it, you know, have a little more body to it. So I'm going to go take that to my sink and make it stiffer. And in the meantime, I'm going to switch my camera over as well, and we'll trim our strawberries block to get ready for the third video and do the lemonade block. So just give me a second and I'll move my camera over. Okay, so we're ready to trim our little strawberries block, and I've already trimmed my little flag here. So here's my little flag that I'm going to go soak the rest of the stabilizer out. Just a second here. I'm trying to get the camera adjusted a little bit. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead, and this is going to be the same size as the other ones have been, and we've got those little marks there that we can put our little arrows from our ruler on to make sure we get it lined up where we want it. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this to the side and start in just a little ways, pull back to the corner, and push forward. So that works the best with these. Instead of trying to get it in the corner and pushing forward, start in a little bit, push down, pull back, and then push forward, because that seems to work the best for me. Okay, just a little off here, just a second. And just be slow and deliberate. I really have to use these rulers slowly. I take my time, and they work very well. But I still struggle a little bit because I'm cutting on the inside. So there's our little block. Oops, I think I missed a little corner here. There we go. All right. So there's our little strawberry block and our little squeeze the day. So this will be ready. I'm going to go ahead and dip this so I can get rid of the rest of this little stabilizer off of here in my warm water. So I always use just not hot water, just warm water in my sink, and it dissolves it, and then lay it down on something and let it dry. So we'll do that. And then in the third video, then we'll do just the lemonade block, because as I was starting to look at it, it actually has quite a lot going on in it, and it's a pretty good size block. So I figured that'd be a good one. We could just do that one by itself. So thank you so much for joining me for the June mini quilt from Kimberbell, and this is part 2. So thank you so much. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. And also, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do, because then you get notifications. It's absolutely free, and you can get notifications to when I put new videos up and have new content. So thanks everybody, and I'll be back for video 3 to do the lemonade block. Bye-bye.